Dun, dun, dun. Hello, everybody. In the next video, I'm going to be discussing how to program the MRCC from Conductive Labs because I need that device in order for all of this stuff to work. And you'll find out why when we get into the nuts and bolts of it. But for now, what I want to go over in this video is what I want to achieve with these pieces of gear and how they're interconnected. And then the next video is how to make those connections specifically. So that when I press this note, something else triggers aside from its own internal sound engine. So since I have mentioned it, we have the conductive MRCC here. Sometimes I call it Mr. CC, but that's not correct. It has a bunch of 5-pin MIDI ports, as well as USB and MIDI over the 3.5 millimeter, Type A and Type B. It has jacks like this, which is also on the same of the back of these keyboards. So in order to connect these two devices, as you know, you take an ordinary MIDI cable with the pins to the same and connect it to this device, and then the other half of the cable goes into the back of your keyboard. So what I've done here is that instead of labeling each and every one of these cables, like this will be the organ, this will be the piano, this will be the foot pedals, I decided to not label it and I'll just remember what's what. So this will be port 1, port 2, port 3, port 4, and then on the feet port 5. So it's working from top down to bottom. So if I want to send something to this organ, I would come out of port 2 because the other side of this cable goes into the MIDI in of the organ. Likewise, the keyboard beneath the organ is that Studio Logic Numa compact. That's port 3. Port 4 will be the piano, which is here. And so that's sending information back into the keyboards. The keyboards are the devices that are sending MIDI information to this whole device here. So that must be received into the MIDI in ports. So this will be the top tier, and then this will be the organ. Underneath the organ, this will be the piano, and then this fifth port here will be the foot pedals. So the reason why I need this is because I have multiple devices going to the same device. And the back of keyboards only have one MIDI in port, which means I need to take multiple sources, combine them, and send it out through one cable. And this device is able to do it. So if I take, say, for instance, number 5 here. Number 5 is currently routed into sending MIDI out into this. I can turn that off. So it's not going to send that anymore. But when I step on the foot pedals for number 5, I might want it to go to a device that's connected to port 9, and then port 10, 11, and even 12. And it can do the whole thing. So I'm just doing one action into the MIDI in here, and I can control up to 12 devices along here. But of course, I don't want it to send on to 12 devices and all that. I'm just showing you that one device can take that information and send it out to multiple devices back into the keyboard rig, which is what I want to do. For instance, this device here, it is split. It's the only split I have currently programmed. So I have the first 4 octaves of the keyboard. I want this to control this synthesizer. The lower half of the keyboard will control the bass synth inside the organ, or the mono synth, which means I need to go to tier 3 and send it to the top, the synthesizer, and the other one. So we have to turn off this button here. Send it to. Oh, I think that one's on too. I have to send it to. Where am I? There we go. It's off. Send it to the synthesizer and the organ, both on its own separate MIDI channels, so that when I press this key, it's going to travel down this cable into here, into port 3, take that key press and send it out to the synth and to the organ. Now the synth will be put on its own Midi channel so that when I press down here in this split on the lower half, the synthesizer is going to ignore whatever I play here. It's not even going to receive it, and only pay attention to when I press the keys over here, because this monosynth here and the polysynth here are set to separate channels, which are going to be on these two cables. So I select that keyboard I want here, and I press this light and then this light, and now they're both going to be, when I press that key, we can see here on this screen that when I press it here, it's going to be sent. It senses the activity there. And so I just keep on doing that. All I have to do is decide what I want to go where. And it's really easy with this device here to make it all happen. All I need to do is just connect the cables. The outs into the ins, and the outs from here back into the ins of the keyboards. Now I have this controller right here. I like this thing. It actually does what I want it to do. It's the Bafaco VCMC. If you're into keyboards, you probably are familiar with Eurorack. This is a Eurorack module, and it's pretty shallow enough to fit into the 4MS pod, although the power cable kind of makes it a little bit too deep, but I don't know, you just press against it hard enough, it works. Anyways, it's put into this little black box with rubber feet on the bottom of it with these 4 screws, 2 here and 2 at the top here. A Midi cable, just an ordinary 5-pin Midi cable, is going to the out. And I'm using these 8 faders that are red here, and I'm sending specific messages through NRPN, non-registered numbers, out from this device to go into the organ. But this is already being occupied by here. But that's easy because I can just take this thing, which will be on the first tier, so that's number 1, and I can send it to the organ, so I just press number 2 here. So then I go back to this keyboard here, and that's also going to the organ here. So multiple devices. This device here, this section of the keyboard here, both go into the organ here. So that's the power of the Conductive Labs MRCC. You could have a different device on this little empty space on top of the organ, like this thing fits pretty well. This is an invaluable device. It's the Fader Fox EC4. You've probably seen it before because it has the screen. The best thing is that it has a MIDI learn. So it has you could plug in a MIDI cable on the top there, and then whatever you pipe into it, it'll program its faders automatically with the MIDI learn, which I used in order to find out what are the NRPN numbers that I should use to program these faders here. I like faders because with one finger you're able to make really quick adjustments, and I can see the minimum and maximum right there. With these knobs, I can't really, like, the screen will show me, but I have to have my whole hand to take hold of these encoders, and I want to make quicker changes to multiple things, to multiple parameters. So I find faders work better for that. So less controls, but I think I only need 8 instead of 16. But I still need this thing to figure out, okay, what should I program these to? So that's really neat. I have this first fader here be the Mellotron strings, brass, choir, and flute, and then I have filters like a Mellotron have. I think it has a tone knob that can brighten the sound or darken the sound. For the 4 sounds that I have programmed from the ensemble section in this organ, I have the filters so that I can brighten it with or the opposite with these 4 faders here. So that's 8 faders altogether. So that's really neat because I'm just playing along, adding some Mellotron, just a few fingers, manipulate that. So really nice. And one other thing I want to accomplish is that the piano has a clavinet module with these big buttons here. I don't know if you can see them, but they're right here at the end. Those light up. Can't really see it so well. But I like the clavinet module because it gives me physical buttons that I can press. to change the sound of the clavinet on the fly. You can make it really plucky by pressing the mute button, or a little bit more bassy by adding or taking off the brilliant or the treble pickups. Anyways, the piano action is a bit heavy for clavinet, like if you want to play really bouncy and really fast, which means I want these keys to trigger this module. So I set this module to an alternative Midi channel that's separate from the piano itself, which you're able to do one time in this piano in the programming from the menu. So I'm taking the Midi out from the organ and I'm connecting it to tier 4, which is, or port 4, which is this cable here. No, well, it's going to be this one. So I'm sending the organ, which is 2, and then connecting it by pressing the button for port 4. Now, if my Midi channel that's coming out from the organ is 8, and I set the alternative channel for here to 8, but the global channel for this piano is like 1 or 2 or something different, then when I press this key, it'll trigger the clavinet sound when this module is turned on. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's everything. Next video, we're going to be deep diving into how we do this, because there's some filtering, there's some duplication, and the way I've got it set up, I don't actually know if I have enough in and out ports, because I'm going to take a short cable and plug it from the out back into the in section to make a loop. But then I'm going to filter out some of the MIDI information so that it doesn't create a bad endless loop, because I want the faders from this keyboard here to be the second set of faders for the organ here, which needs to be on its own MIDI channel that is going to be separate from the channel that these keys send and that these keys send. So really this has to send out 3 sets, one for its faders, now which are tied to the channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter out the note data, keep the CC values, hit the organ with this twice on different channels. So it's going to be crazy. Anyways, next month maybe, and then the month after that, like in December, I might do like a performance where I use all of the sounds in a song. Let's play a song, right? Because that's what all of this is for. So see you then, everybody. Bye.